All right. Oh man, I think I've got everything going. Desktop audio is looking good on the stream, I think. I already clicked go live. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think it's good. This is part of that. The build failures reported on Hydra as close as possible to zero, but a lot of that is just marking things broken and restricted. And when you do that sort of process, you do realize that there's a lot of stuff in Nix packages, and there is probably a good amount that doesn't work or is not being abandoned. I mean, is abandoned by the maintainers at least.
I apologize. I turns out I had broken out the audio at some point, but that should be back. Always exciting. Yeah, so there has been for several years now an effort to remove or fix packages that are broken. It's interesting because on the other hand, I know some people have been wondering what the harm is of having broken packages. As if if there's even a broken template that's available, maybe that's better than nothing. But
Yeah, I don't think Nix packages is a template holder. It is a curated packages set. It is a curated NixOS distribution. So it's not really our thing to be holding on to things that are just a template. That's what NUR, or like things that an Linux has AUR is for. It's like a template, more like
yeah,
that. So it's not really our thing to be doing that in the first place.
right. I just want to call out that this, my dream here is that this is discussion format, and anybody present can talk. It doesn't have to just be you and me here. Yeah, Macy.
So I was thinking if it's maybe a good idea if we just move all the broken stuff to an NUR, which we call like the template repository, and people could then just pick up the broken packages from there and make an upstream PR with a fixed version.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a template repository though, because I don't see how it's a template. It's just a collection of packages in a more broken state.
I can see what you mean there, because like a NixOS expression is never a template. Like that is something that could probably be an RFC if we wanted to do, to move out those large amount of expressions that are broken. And I think when you mentioned it was a NUR type of thing, that's basically how I believe similar features that Flakes could provide.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with Flakes, I mean, you could put those packages anywhere in your own repository, and it would be fairly easy for others to use.
Samuel, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, this mostly sounds like hoarding expressions, which I'm not sure is a good idea. If they're broken, they're broken. There probably is not interest to fix them right now. And sorry about the cat. And what's the actual good in keeping broken expressions that I think a good chunk of them are going to be trivial and could just be rewritten once required?
Right, I see your point here, Samuel. I think the particular person who made the original post, I believe I'm getting the sensation like they have certain packages that are in their workflow that are just in Nix packages that are broken. So that's what they're speaking about. But
one of the things that I think about here, I'll let you speak in just a moment, Samuel. But is with many distributions, the release mechanism is not a single coherent set like how Nix packages is. Not everything has to build all at the exact same time. And so on other distributions, it's much easier to keep something that might be broken working for longer. And I think that's a natural tension of the way NixOS is architected. Go ahead, Samuel.
I was mostly done with with what I said.
Oh, sorry, I thought your hand was still up.
in RC, Adis Bladas mentioned in his honest opinion that a Nix packages attribute is a promise of me being able to build that package. A broken package is a broken promise, and a failure Nix packages maintainership. So there being broken packages in Nix packages, maybe it's just because people feel that they need to contribute everything to Nix packages to have it, when it's definitely not the case. You can have an overlay. Flakes would be a great thing if we could have that right away to get that stuff out there. And maybe not everything has to go into Nix packages. And I feel like a lot of beginners, once they see NixOS, they feel like they have to like get stuff into Nix packages. It's the only sort of way as modern repository structure is not really working like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think having a culture of keeping some things to yourself, even if they're public and open source, doesn't have to go into Nix package itself. One of the things about if there's an expression that doesn't build, being a broken promise, I agree. I feel daunted by having 50, 60, 70, 80,000 builds in Nix packages if we're building for all of our architectures. And how do we handle that kind of scale and the rate of change that we do and still keep that promise?
I'm not sure what's the answer that could be.
Yeah, me neither.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
You can be fairly aggressive about marking packages as either, well, as unsupported on some platforms. So basically, you go to Hydra, you look at everything that's broken, and you mark them as either broken or unsupported on the platforms where they're broken. And if packages are in a broken state for a long time, then they should probably be removed.
Totally. I think samueldr mentioned that it's about keeping broken packages for a defined length of time and then dropping them once it's done. So it's like a package removal process. So I think we don't even have a process to do that really. It's not really defined in the documentation about how to remove something ethically. Florian, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, sound excellent.
Nice. Yeah, I just wanted to say that most of the package that I acquired, which seemed to be broken, were just stuff that has mostly been abandoned for years, and it's just not being used by anybody at all, or like at least nobody visually stepped up, and it failed building for years. And by just removing it, you don't cause any harm, and you make Nix package itself more maintainable because there's less stuff in there which simply doesn't work. And if somebody really wants to resurrect, hey, you can always git log and grab for the name of the package and resurrect it from the history. I don't really think there's a lot of reason on doing a lot of work on moving broken stuff to another repository of some sorts if it doesn't work in first place. I agree on moving some packages which are not really open source out of Nix packages, but if like stuff that is entirely broken and has been for years, it really doesn't make sense to migrate it over, because there's really nobody taking care of it at the moment.
Yeah, the act of migrating it to another repository implies that somebody cares about that package. So then they could also fix it.
So Toby, who I believe is just watching the stream, sent me a private message suggesting that we could have a bot to automatically mark things as broken, or even remove the package if it stays broken in Hydra for some amount of time.
Yeah, I think we've had this discussion about the workflow for broken packages in the past, and I don't think we ever really standardized anything. But I think the idea was to have set the broken meta.broken on packages, and then in the next release remove all the broken packages, something like that. And yeah, I mean, that could be automated, but
yeah, I did mention on Discourse that it could definitely be some sort of task that we do before releasing NixOS.
Right.
And one of those was the thing about metadata. But I think that's just because there's probably at least from I've been traveling around looking in the Nix packages tree, like a 30% amount of abandoned stuff that's just old. But that's not really a difficult problem.
One of the problems historically of maintainership is, how do you know if somebody's changing your package? And this wasn't a problem when Nix packages was 100 pull requests a month or a week, but now that we're up to over 1,000 a month, I think, it was too much. And so there was the effort to ping maintainers with org, and one of the sort of subtle sub goals there was to try and make maintainership mean a little bit more. And I wonder what might be next for that.
Yeah, so one possibility would be to make code ownership. So the code owners would actually be required to sign off on any pull request that changes a file that they own. But that would be a pretty significant change. So right now we trust everybody who has commit access.
Yeah, I know some people feel spooked about even requiring a pull request for every change, much less getting very specific people to approve them.
I'm not sure how it is in like other distros, how they handle maintainers being able to update their packages, for example, in like Fedora or Debian, but I feel like there's more sense of ownership that you can write to your package than in Nix packages.
Yeah, I think that Nix packages is fairly special in that regard. That we have what is it, 200 people with commit access to everything.
And then there's the maintainers who have to like usually go via proxy a committer to get their changes integrated, and that sort of feeds into what we want to do with like the mergebot RFC actually.
Yeah. So in Debian, I think so every package has one or more maintainers, and those are the only ones who can change the package directly.
And I think that's because of like the structure. We're like a mono repo, so it's sort of like it's almost like a maybe a disadvantage of it because of that.
Yeah, it makes access control harder. So not just the mono repo, but also that we have these shared files like all packages.nix, which do need to be modifiable by everything. So code ownership doesn't really prevent anybody from doing arbitrary stuff. I mean, you could always mess with all packages.nix, for example.
Exactly, and actually, I might have read a thread in the Fedora forums about not sure it was about NixOS, but that's actually something they've noticed about mono repo Linux distributions.
One of the differences that I noticed right away is with a lot of distributions, it used to be less so now, that maintainers would also build the binary packages on their personal computers and then upload that signed binary to the package repository. And so what it meant to trust a maintainer was significantly higher, because not only did you trust what was in the repository, but you also trusted every maintainer's personal machines and their machines not being tainted in some way.
Right, and with the advent of Nix, that's
yeah,
irrelevant.
And in contrast, NixOS, for as long as I remember, has had a centralized build system which does not delegate that actual building trust to its contributors. Another thing I wondered is if we could have a way to distribute with the channel, perhaps, a list of things that are known to not build outside of the actual expression itself.
How could that be useful?
Well, so right now, if you check out, if you have a channel and you're, say you depend on Chromium and pretend Chromium wasn't built and required to pass by the channel, you might rebuild your system and then be stuck on potentially days-long compile of Chromium only to figure out that it fails. And that's a pretty nasty user experience. If we could instead say this actually is known to not pass, not succeed, and then immediately fail by default, that might be a friendlier experience.
I think I see what you're saying. So like a package that is known to be broken, that could actually maybe be implemented inside NixOS. Like a package that's known to be broken in like environment system packages. If someone runs NixOS rebuild, it fails saying that one of your dependents is broken for your configuration.
Yeah.
That would be a much better user experience.
People are on IRC are unhappy about me talking about it in the channel, but let's just consider the idea, not the specifics of it being in a channel.
So the problem is that it would require Hydra to be perfect in distinguishing between transient and permanent failures. And that historically has not been the case. So, for example, in the case of Chromium, it often fails because the disk is full, or it exceeded some time limit.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have an
But
answer.
other than that, Hydra actually has a table where it keeps track of failed builds or paths that failed to build. So these could be exported in some way.
Something to think about. I suspect, Ilko, there are people on chat right now who would like to get emails from Hydra again.
Yeah, I might have a look at that.
All right. We should make sure there's not like a billion emails queued to send first.
Well, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. Florian?
I heard Mailgun is quite good at sending tons of emails.
Sorry, what was that? What is good?
Mailgun is quite good at sending tons of emails. That's not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, what happened last time is we were creating the initial Hydra job for a new release, and this was over 2 years ago. I couldn't believe that. And all of the new, since every job was new, everything that was currently failing triggered an email. And we had grown quite a lot between the release before and that new release, and people were surprised. So I think if we do that, maybe that would maybe require a change to Hydra to maybe not send emails for the very first sets of failures. Not sure exactly.
Well, you can disable mail notification per job set.
Yeah. So maybe just making it part of the release checklist of creating that job set, making sure it's disabled, completing once or twice, and then turning it on.
Right.
Samuel DR suggests that we could also just ping direct maintainers and not dependents. That'd probably be good for things like if GCC or standard env has an actual problem or just a fluke.
That would definitely help immediately more.
Of course, then there is a that brings up the problem of maintainership, actually, which is there are several packages which are pretty important but don't have listed maintainers. It's almost like we have a complicated interconnected system here.
Yeah, marking maintainers is difficult, especially when there's a particular group of people who are the maintainers of a specific subset of things, and they have to add it to every single expression. For example, a thing we had a problem with, like Jan Tognar and heading for GNOME, is that pretty much anything that comes under our maintainership, I want to get notifications on changes to that and things like that. But it's like, okay, I have to go through every single package in Nix packages and add all of our stuff and like that. And what if one day I want to remove myself, I have to go through and just set all that away. So it would be nice if there was a way to like add maintainer like team lists, a certain group of people.
Yeah.
I think there might be a
Project?
PR for that.
So what I wanted to suggest is maybe we could have maintainer teams. So you would have like a team of maintainers defined, which contains a set of maintainers. So in the Nix files, which would automatically be applied as if all of those maintainers would be applied to the package.
I think there might be a PR actually for that. I think I have to find it that actually might have a proof of concept implementation of that.
Yeah, I think that could be good. And relatedly is having like an architecture team who could be listed as core maintainers for or maintainers for core packages for like Arch64, but a different set for x86, 64, that sort of thing. Toby?
Yeah, so what I was thinking, listening to this conversation right now, is that I don't know. One concern I'm thinking about is that it all sounds very technical in the sense that, yeah, so how can we flag this to a certain maintainer? How can we organize groups that contain groups of maintainers and so on and so on? This is for me like too technical. Like, what's the question is, and I mean, you just like 2 minutes before you said this is all very interconnected, right? The real question is like, what are the actual bottlenecks, and what has to be done in order for, I mean, first of all, actually, even even what is the problem, right? And then what has to happen for the problem to get better? Like, is the problem like the big amount of PRs and like unmerged PRs and so on and issues? Is the problem packages not being fixed for a long time and so on and so on? And then even before we said, and even if we had a technical solution, a perfect technical solution for flagging maintainers and so on, what is the what does it actually mean, to be a maintainer and so on and so on. So these very technical terms of how to organize maintainers on packages and so on is I don't find it as interesting, maybe because I'm wondering what the real problems are, basically, on a more organizational level, maybe. So yeah, a bit too technical for me.
Understood. And I agree. I think the hardest part of this is not the technical implementation, but how do we organize and how do we organize the maintainership and the process of maintaining Nix packages has evolved quite a lot over the past almost 20 years. Changing, making those sorts of cultural shifts and commitment shifts can be really difficult for a community like ours. And I think that's the hard part. I agree.
So in a way, I feel like the technical part has to follow the cultural part. So we can't maybe necessarily say, so these are the technicalities of how being a maintainer works, but more like maintainers have to evolve into something specific, and then we can adapt. We can adapt the technical part to that new way of how maintainers behave. I don't know. So maybe also. It's maybe a bit tougher to specify, in order for someone to be a maintainer, they have to be this and that. And maybe rather, it's like if maintainers are empowered in certain ways, they will act differently and more responsively. Yeah. Or I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah, I agree. And the two have to develop a certain amount of one step with one piece and then another step with the other piece, and sort of walk together. At any rate, we are at 30 minutes in, and World of Peace promised to do a bit of review of, I believe, the cinnamon package set with Matcha, World of Peace.
Yep, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to get the screen sharing going. Okay, everyone can see everything here. Everything looks right. Oh, I can't reach my dock.
Yep, looks okay.
I guess we'll just have to ignore that I can't use my dock all of a sudden. Okay, so I've been working with Matsheets to package cinnamon for a couple weeks now. It's growing merrily along, so I'm just gonna go right into it. So this particular package is Cinnamon Control Center. And it's, oh, I cannot use my dock, so I can't actually open a program. I have to stop this for a second. Seems something's up with the focus. Okay, that's better. Sorta. Not really, though. So a lot of the programs are honestly just forks of GNOME ones, because that's basically what Cinnamon is at a certain point. So it makes it very easy for me to go through, since I already maintain those things. So first thing I see right away is to do here for a network manager integration, and I believe that has to do with something with like the co-object introspection stuff not being available in network manager. Something's up. I guess that's out of scope for the particular issue. And there's some things that are commented here which really shouldn't.
So part of this is old stuff that I found from somebody else or the old Cinnamon package set. And I don't know if it's still needed. I've just basically left it in so we know those packages have existed and we can reevaluate whether they are necessary. And that thing you're looking at right now, this hacky thing, is because a test was failing and I just somehow made the test work by using some dark magic, and now it works.
Okay, it's probably okay. I think the only suggestion I have here is the use of like pre-install phases and stuff like that, and like little custom attributes. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Usually it's just like something I would do in like pre-build, and this would maybe this would be pre-install. I don't know. It's not really some sort of like you could say a style that I see a lot. So if you could just move those into like those phase attributes, that'd be cool. Like pre-build, pre-install.
I'm just wondering, when I override pre-build, pre-install, am I overriding anything that is there, or are they usually empty?
So in the install phase, actually the overriding is not exactly the correct phrase, but in the install phase, there's a hook pre-build, not install phase, there's a pre-install hook and a post-install hook. So this runs before the install phase runs and after. But overriding would be like putting install phase, which is completely different. You shouldn't do that because then it won't run those hooks anymore because you've completely overridden what was in setup.sh. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not sure if I suggested to you like the code style thing of like how I like these instead of like an extremely long line, just like to be in a long list.
Some of those aren't completely updated because
Okay.
it evolved into a mess and the mess works. That's why I'm making all of those PRs separately, because I know all of those things have lots of garbage, like those big commented out build input lists.
Exactly. So I guess looking at the build dependencies is kind of difficult. So we can probably look through that and sort of match it. This is a lot of picky little stuff, having to check each and every single one. And sometimes because it's NixOS, you have other ones that are not exactly direct dependencies that need to be in build inputs because of how the GNOME setup hook infrastructure works. Like you'll need certain things in there that have setting schemas so it can get put up into the wrapper. So it's a lot of things. So you honestly can even just look at like the other distros packaging. Like here's a Debian control file that has all the dependencies. But like the most true way would just be to look at the actual build expression and look for like package check modules, and each one it's checking, make sure that's a dependency in there. But those won't be native dependencies, those will be build inputs. So I'm probably just gonna like side by side compare these. Let's see if that's all right. Oh. So it definitely probably depend on GTK3 and glib. Can see GeoUnix, which is surprising you'd need the cflags hack to fix that. I guess they have it right here. It depends on libcinnamon control center and the common modules, which are up here. GTK3, glib, gthread, these are all in glib and cinnamon desktop. When I see those, you have libnotify there. And it also sets what required versions that it has, which are strict. It's checking for some headers here.
But what I find amazing are the names of all those Xorg libraries, because some of those just sound like somebody had a cat going over the keyboard.
Exactly, and I think sometimes they're kind of different depending on the distros, what they're called and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to search under the attribute set in Nix packages to figure out which one is which. So I'm seeing, where is the native? So auto-reconf hook already pulls in get text, but it's good that you actually put it here. So that's right. So yeah, if you're reviewing something that uses this build system, you sort of just look at these particular keywords to see what the dependencies are if someone put checks in for that. Otherwise, you actually have to look into the source code and stuff like that, which is a pain. I don't see GDK fix buff. No, so that'll be one of them. Depends on one of the Polkit libraries. libx clavier. Cinnamon menus in there. All right, those look good. Looking for, and those are the checks from modem manager, which you don't have. I need to switch windows again. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Looks like there's optional cup support here. So I think I already asked you to put cups in the other program. That was an optional feature. I'm not sure if you need a flag for that. No, it's only a disable flag. And if it's found, it gets added. Okay.
Also, what I wanted to note, the reason why I disabled Network Manager is mainly because I can't get it to find Network Manager because it's missing some library.
Does it fail at like package config, or what does it fail at exactly?
Yeah, package config. Configure phase doesn't find the library. And it's Network Manager applet. I believe I have added that, but it's still not finding that. And that is really bad. I don't know if it's actually breaking anything, but I suppose not having Network Manager in the control center means all Network Manager related settings won't work.
And they probably won't be there. So I think when it fails like that, it's because there's a missing required library in the package config file. It's not present in the current environment. And as well, you'll see PRs where I mentioned you need to propagate these libraries because it's in package configs required. So if you could PM me the exact error, I could figure out why it can't find Network Manager. I can't remember if there was an issue you opened about that anywhere. Oh, you already have colored there. It seems you enabled online accounts. ISO codes. There you have that in there. And these are all the options are.
I just want to note that we have just about 3 or 4 minutes left.
Oh.
I don't know if it would be a good idea to actually showcase the Cinnamon desktop or something, because what
You have
I
it actually working now currently, right, on your workstation?
Yes. And
Do you want to screen share it? Can you screen share it?
Yeah, I suppose it should work. You'd have to stop your screen share for that.
Oh, right. I guess you can spend the last few minutes doing that, since I'm probably not going to finish this review right away. Okay, I've stopped mine.
So it's my laptop right now, which I'm using, and I've got Cinnamon installed here. I've got a few tweaks in the settings. The reason that works is because I've made those changes on Ubuntu. So if I open the control center, it doesn't open, which is part of the thing we're trying to fix in our review. The actual Cinnamon desktop right now doesn't look very polished because we still have some rough edges. So if I let that log in, we get a very unteamed and just pretty basic Cinnamon. Additionally, what's also missing are desktop plugins. So my desktop isn't actually so clean because I keep my desktop clean, but because the plugin isn't running for the desktop, icons to show up. And once this logs in, we should get a Cinnamon desktop.
Live demos are always thrilling. I just want to say how cool it is to have you here and willing to do a live demo today.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's taking its sweet time. It knows I'm trying to make a demo because it worked. Now it works. So what we also have or trying to fix is it doesn't sometimes detect hardware acceleration. On my laptop, it doesn't show the message that my video drivers are broken, but I do see some messages from OpenGL about things like this meta syncing not working.
Exactly. I think we talked about that. I probably will have a review for your Muffin PR that will have the fix for that pretty soon, probably today.
Yes. Other than that, we now have a pretty decent desktop, and we can now launch Xterm and do things. What's also very interesting to note for people trying to port desktop environments is you can always just launch an Xterm session and launch your desktop environment to get all the error messages, because logging in on the first try after porting never works. Aside from that, I have my own fork of Nix packages, which already includes all the packages and all the configs to get Cinnamon working. So if you're trying to use Cinnamon, you can just use my Nix packages repo, and I can share a link in Zoom.
Right.
Other than that,
we're going for trying to get this in 2003, right?
Yes, that would be great.
So we kind of need it. We're running out of time, so I think I might need to end the demo.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we have like only a minute left.
So I'm just gonna share the link to my Nix packages.
Exactly. Great.
It includes Cinnamon, so you can just run it like a regular desktop environment. But the settings app doesn't work, and there is stuff missing.
Right, still
report
WIP.
issues. because that's where you're gonna help.
Okay, so I think we have to close now, since this is, I think we've reached like the end of our stream. So just a couple announcements. The next edition of Office Hours will be February 7th, 2020. And if you'd like to be a guest speaker in NixOS Office Hours, you can just, ping me. It's in the event informational of where or who to contact to get into that. But there's also a form if you want to actually seriously come up with a presentation for Office Hours. And on the other side, we have other streams in NixOS. There's Nix Fridays with Simbatum, and that's you could reach them on Nix Fridays on IRC, and that's Simbatum on Twitter. And there's also a Haskell packaging Twitch stream with by Petty, and that's at Original Petty on Twitter. And we finally renamed our YouTube channel. We have an actual proper name. It's NixOS Foundation after reaching 100 followers. So thank you everyone for coming to be with us today. I had a great time. Keep it cute. Bye.
Yeah, thank you all. Bye.